Hey everyone, so I just wanted to do a quick follow-up video. I had a second opinion with another neurologist the Friday just gone. It's Tuesday today. And I actually got diagnosed with FND. I was a bit hesitant, and I said this to him, I said I was a bit hesitant about whether I actually wanted that diagnosis or not, because I'm extremely wary of if a new symptom was to come on. And I had to go to accident and emergency, or ER or whatever it's called in the US, that they would just kind of dismiss it and put it down to just being a component of FND. He was quite understanding. It was a man called Mark Mumford in Bedford. I really liked him as a person. He was quite understanding that my symptoms were very much real, and whilst there wasn't a clear structural defect, yeah, he was understanding how real the symptoms were, and he didn't dismiss them at all. He'd just done the usual neurological exam, reflexes, etc. He thought that a lot of my issues were perhaps down to hyperventilation. Dizziness is one of the main symptoms that I experience. I don't seem to get weakness in my legs as much now, which is quite nice. It comes and it goes. I think I mentioned before, but I did mention it to my neurologist as well, that I suspected that I might have carpal tunnel syndrome, because some nights when I'm sleeping, my hand just starts bending back by itself, and it's really bizarre. It starts bending back by itself, and it's like an intense feeling of pins and needles. It only seemed to be my right hand. So I started wearing a splint for it, and I didn't have any problems for like the first 3 nights. And now it's not my right hand that's the problem, it's now my left hand, which is, typical. But I had that maybe once in the last 3 months, but then in the last 2 to 3 weeks, I've probably woken up with it in the night, probably about 5 or 6 times. And I definitely notice, and I rarely get a good night's sleep, but if I'm waking up in the night, if I'm going back to sleep 2 or 3 times, my symptoms are much worse the next day. If I get, 8 hours sleep without interruption, my symptoms are really minimal the next day. So sleep, and good quality of sleep especially, very, very important for people with FND. I know a lot of people are on antidepressants, not because they're necessarily depressed, but to help with sleeping problems. Like, I'm on amitriptyline, and as I said, it's helped with neuropathic pain. It's helped in that respect, and it definitely did help me to sleep at the beginning, but I'm not so sure whether it's having the desired effect with my sleeping now. I tend to go to sleep, and then some nights I'll wake up an hour later, and I'll just have this horrible like feeling in my head, sensation of impending doom as such. So that's something that I need to look at. The neurologist that I saw on Friday did perhaps suggest changing my medication from amitriptyline. I know not a lot, but a fair few people are quite skeptical about amitriptyline. I've heard it's been linked to heart failure and some other things, but Anyway, Mark did also have a look over my MRI of my head. Now, my neurologist on the NHS, I had to pay to see Mark privately. My neurologist on the NHS suggested that I should have another MRI of my brain. I think more for my reassurance, because there were some white matter signal intensities on there, which, I've spoken to a couple of neurologists, and could just be age-related changes. It could be MS, like could form to MS. It could be small vessel disease. Obviously, MS is pretty much completely ruled out after I've had the lumbar puncture, and there were no lesions present in the area of my brain where they would develop from multiple sclerosis. And he had a good look over my MRI, because I was a bit skeptical about what my main neurologist was saying, that it's just age-related changes. Because when I was admitted into hospital, the doctors there were a bit concerned about the white matter on my MRI, which made me worry a bit more about it. But she seemed to think it was nothing. Mark Manford had a look over it, and he was convinced enough to say that I wouldn't need another MRI. He didn't suggest that I need another MRI, even with the dye, to see any changes. He's pretty certain that it's just age-related changes, which I'm quite relieved about. I said before that I would have probably hoped or wished that something like an abnormality would have showed up on my spinal MRI, so that I could at least attribute my symptoms to something tangible. But when it's the MRI of your brain, I think I'd rather nothing came up. Anyway, after that consultation, my mum dropped me home, and I haven't been able to drive because of the sensation of dizziness and vertigo. I cleared it out with my neurologist and my insurance company, the UVLA, and I'm fine to drive because I don't suffer from seizures, thankfully. And my friend came around and saw me, and I said to him, do you mind just sitting in the car whilst I drive around the corner? Because my confidence isn't too great when it comes to driving by myself, especially not as of late. I've literally only managed trips around the corner from my house, and he came out with me, and I was driving along. And once I got my confidence going a little bit, I was out on the roads for about 5 or 6 hours, and I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. It was like a sense of normality, as though it was really strange. It was really strange. I haven't driven properly since this all started about 4 months ago. And my grandmother's, she'd been worrying about me sick. I spent 3 months basically bedridden. I could not do anything. I could barely go to the toilet, and she had to sit there and watch helplessly whilst I went through that, which I knew was so difficult for her to do. I'm really close with her, and I knew that was difficult for her. And I decided to drive around to her house. It's about a 20-minute journey from where I live, because I just knew how much that would mean to her to see me not back to normal, because it's still a long way off normal, but for her to see me in some sense back to normality. And she got quite emotional when I walked through the door, which meant a lot to me, and obviously clearly meant a lot to her. But like I said, that's after being bedridden for 3 months. The last few days I've been able to go to the shops in my car. My car is automatic. I don't think I'll be able to configure a manual car, mainly because of the weakness in my legs. I don't think my left leg would be too fond of the clutch. So yeah, so I've got the diagnosis of FND now, and I'm starting to get a sense of normality back into my life. I cannot comprehend how rough 3 to 4 months I've had. Like, I cannot tell you how bad I felt during that time, but one thing I do know is that since I've kind of shifted my mindset to it's not all doom and gloom, and that these feelings of pain, discomfort are only temporary, and that long-term thinking came back into my mind, because it's hard to think past, it's hard to think, oh, next year, this is what I'm going to be doing. In 6 months, this is what I'm going to be doing. It's hard to establish long-term thinking when you're in the state of mind you just don't know what's going to happen next, because FND symptoms are so unpredictable. I can be fine 1 minute, and then 5 minutes later I can be in a terrible state. So, but once I pushed past that and started to think, this is where I want to be 6 months from now, your brain kind of takes that on board. And positive thinking is so hard when you've got all these awful symptoms every single day. Like I said, it's as debilitating as MS, Parkinson's, but positive thinking will get you there. If you're suffering now, I completely understand how you feel. I genuinely could not even get up to go to the toilet most days for 3 months. So if you're struggling now, just push through, because you can do it, and you can get through to much better times. I'm nowhere near, the capability that I had in my life prior to my symptoms starting, but I'm so much happier now. I don't even mind being housebound, as long as I can do my work, as long as I can sit at the computer, as long as I can go downstairs and get something to eat, then I'm not too bothered. If I can drive every so often and go to the shops and just have a little piece of freedom in that sense, then that's wonderful for me. But yeah, like I say, if you've been housebound, bedridden, plagued with symptoms every day for the last 3, 6, even 12 months, I promise you there will be better days ahead, and you've got to do your best to try and look forward to that, because I know I'm still going to have horrific days. I know I'm still going to have good days. It's, like I said, it's the unpredictability of FND that makes it so hard to put yourself in a positive mind frame, because you just don't know what's going to happen next. But positive thinking has definitely taken me from being bedridden to being up and about, seeing my friends again, and like I say, restoring a small sense of normality to my life. So yeah, finally got the diagnosis after 3 or 4 months. I say finally, but people go years without being diagnosed. My brain MRI is okay, and yeah, like I say, small sense of normality back in my life. I'm going to be doing the website for my charity for the rest of this week, and then yeah, I'll do some progress on that. I'm approaching a few bigger businesses to try and work up some fundraising as well. And like I said, the application for the formation of the charity is currently going through the commission. So onwards and upwards, I guess. But yeah, thank you very much for watching.